Yeah. My name is Mohammed Aly. I'm an attorney. I'm 27 years old. I'm an advocate for homeless issues, and I started a nonprofit called Orange County Poverty Alleviation Coalition, or CPAC for short. I've been involved in homelessness issues for my entire adult life. The reason why I decided I was going to go to law school was to advocate for people that don't often have representation. I feel like my best possible contribution, that I can make with my life would be to help advocate for people that don't have a lot of representation, don't have a lot of resources, don't have a lot of power on their own, and to sort of advocate for them and to empower them and to understand that they can fight for themselves, that their rights do matter, and that they can make a difference if they speak out on their issues. So it's my job as an advocate to empower the people that I'm trying to advocate for. I actually was arrested. I have a court date on middle of next week. I'll see if charges have been filed. I have been told that I was going to be charged with misdemeanor obstructing an officer or resisting arrest, and I was arrested. I spent a day in jail. I had to bail myself out because of the fact that I was advocating for homeless people whose rights I believed were being violated. So in the midst of this protest, I was arrested, taken to jail, and I feel like I did the right thing. Like, I feel like I might have broken the law, against trespassing, but I felt like I was obeying the law that says that I have a First Amendment right to free speech. I also believe that I was trying to vindicate the law that says, homeless people have 14th Amendment rights to due process. They have 4th Amendment rights to freedom from unreasonable search and seizure. They have rights, and so it's interesting because I don't see myself as a rule breaker. As a lawyer, I have to advocate for my clients and advocate for the public interest as a public interest attorney. And in being an advocate, and in trying to uphold the law, I've actually been running afoul of the law. So we'll see whether or not those charges get filed, and I plan on maintaining my innocence. I plan on saying that it's important to do what I did. The day that I got arrested, I was protesting the county's actions in what I felt was destroying the property and harming people. And the most discouraging part was when I was sitting in jail and I could no longer be outside, defending the people. That was discouraging. Like, I felt powerless, I felt like I would much rather have been a witness to what the county was doing and trying to help, and if it got me arrested again, I would get arrested again, That particular day was hard. That day was hard. What happened after was very redeeming, because what happened after was first the ACLU of Southern California filed a lawsuit, and then the Elder Law and Disability Rights Center in Orange County filed a lawsuit, and the Orange County settled the ACLU lawsuit. They lost the first step of the the Elder Law and Disability Rights Center's lawsuit. So twice the county got sued over the actions that I were protesting. So that was empowering. And as powerless as I felt and as discouraged as I felt at the time, I had faith that our Constitution still has meaning, even if it gets violated, even if my rights were violated, or the homeless people's rights were violated. Ultimately, I'm a lawyer, and I believe that the law can be used to defend people's rights, and you go before the court and you make your arguments. And so far, it's working. Yeah, I think we've already seen positive results from the two lawsuits that were filed. I mean, first, the ACLU's lawsuit was able to establish that people were being fenced in, essentially, by the county. And so the county, settled with the ACLU and addressed that concern. The second lawsuit was about people who had property, and that property was transported, 30, 40 miles away, which is like maybe a 2 or 3 hour bus ride, and you had to make an appointment and you had to call in advance in order to be able to get your stuff, and the people's possessions weren't being respected. People's right to their property, that right was being violated, and that right is now being vindicated. That lawsuit is proceeding, and I do see that ending favorably for the people that we're advocating for. And I think that the longer the county spends on fighting these lawsuits and spending resources fighting the homeless and fighting their advocates, the longer they do this, the more money they spend, on these actions, and maybe that's an incentive for them to actually fix these underlying homelessness issues. Maybe that's an incentive for them to look at providing housing for homeless people. A housing first model is the best practice across the country. Countries have been able to almost eliminate their chronic homelessness population, 90-something% success rates in places like Utah, where people have been able to, eliminate populations of people experiencing chronic homelessness and put these people into homes, and that's what works. And it sounds like a radical idea, but it's the most sensible idea. It's the most tried and tested and proven idea, and that's ultimately what us homeless advocates want to see. We want to see homeless people in homes, and the court can do that. The county can do that. And when we take the county to court, the county's more likely to do that. The county starts to understand that it can't just let people, have their rights being violated. It has to actually help them. I think empathy matters, and just understanding that when we have economic recessions, when we see rise in unemployment, when people aren't able to have enough income, that when wages don't rise as fast as the cost of housing, of course there's going to be homelessness. Of course there's going to be homeless people. And it's not because they've chosen to become homeless. It's not because we suddenly have more people that want to be, living on the fringes of society, or they're making this decision. No, we're seeing rises in homeless populations because we see the cost of housing climb faster than the wages that people are able to take home. So yeah, that's what causes these increases in homelessness. I mean, are substance abuse problems and mental health issues also an issue? Yeah, and some of them don't start until people have gotten their homes foreclosed on and lost everything, and then they've developed the substance abuse problems because they're numbing themselves from whatever from whatever they have to deal with living on the streets, which is a lot. It's police harassment. It's not knowing where your next meal is coming from. It's feeling cold. It's walking around all night to keep yourself warm. It's being unsheltered. It's being looked at, constantly and always being under the public eye. And just have empathy. Just have empathy. Like that's not something. That's not something that shouldn't come naturally to us. It should come naturally to us to care about people, and just talk to people. Go down and talk to them. Don't talk to advocates. Don't talk to people that work for nonprofits or people that claim to represent homeless people. Talk to homeless people. Introduce yourself. Offer them a cigarette or offer somebody whatever they like. Just say, hey, what do you need? And say, hey, my name is Mohammed. Nice to meet you. And introduce yourself and get their story. If they're willing to talk to you, then sure, strike up a conversation, make a friend, and learn from their experiences. You'll be surprised what you'll learn. People that live on the streets are no different than people that have been able to, keep their lives together and not end up on the streets. One or two things go wrong in your life, and that's what happens. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a worse person. It doesn't make you like a different case. Everybody should talk to homeless people. Everybody should stop treating these people as if they were invisible. And everybody should care. What I would encourage people to do is to, again, sort of introduce yourself, say, hey, my name is Mohammed, how are you? It's nice to meet you. Is there anything I can get you? What do you need? Strike up a conversation, like make a friend, and learn about people. You'll be surprised what you'll learn. These people are no different. People that end up on the streets are no different than people that have been able to keep their lives together and haven't ended up on the streets. One or two things go wrong in your life, and that doesn't make you a different person. It doesn't make you a different class of person. It's really important for us to not treat homeless people as if they're invisible, or they're different. It's shockingly common that that these folks are dehumanized and talked to as if they were subhuman or different, and that's wrong. We talk about homeless people negatively almost all of the time, and anytime they're mentioned, and we paint them with the same brush as people that have substance abuse problems, or people that have mental health problems, or people that have behavioral issues, or people that choose to commit crimes, or people that don't belong in society. And you got to understand that you can't make these generalizations about people ever, not in terms of race, not in terms of gender or sexual orientation, and certainly not in terms of whether or not somebody's been able to hold their life together and have a home. And you can't generalize people. You have to be able to individualize them and to relate to them as people. I want to leave the world in a better place than I found it, and I can't stand the fact that I go to bed every night and there's people that are unsheltered, and there's people that don't have anything and don't have people fighting for them. There's a need there, and that's what I'm trying to fill. And the worst part and the most important part is empowering these people to feel like they belong, to feel like they're no different. That's the most important part. So not to feel necessarily like that they need help, but that they need to be empowered, and to feel empowered, and know that they can help themselves, and know that they're no different, know that all the negative ideas that are expressed about them and that they begin to internalize about themselves are just wrong. That's the most important part. And And that's important to me because it needs to happen. I don't know if I see this as like an issue that like I uniquely, have, like a personality for or an experience for. I don't know if that's the case. I don't think that's the case. I really think that if you look at people in society, and everybody has issues, and everybody has their own struggle, and I certainly have my own struggle. And some people are in dire need of help. And if you sort of look at this as triage, where some people are going to bleed out unless they get immediate assistance, just like being on a battlefield and triaging the wounded soldiers, triaging the members of our society that if they don't get help now, they will die. They will die due to exposure to the elements. That's why I care about this issue. It's because the need for it, it's immediate. If these people don't get help now, they will die. They do die. They die in the hundreds of every year in Orange County. That's what the statistics say. So until that stops happening, I can't stop advocating, and empowering these people. Whatever skill you have, whatever you have to offer, whatever your strengths are, give. Giving is the most important thing in life. And whatever your strengths are, whatever your biggest gifts are, that's what your biggest potential gift is. And we all have different talents. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. So think about what you have to offer and give that. And that's what will give your life the most meaning. At the end of the day, that's what will give your life the most meaning. Yeah, we hold meetings. I have asked members of the community to come out on weekends. Saturdays we've met at this Burger King by the riverbed. That's why I've chosen this area. It's because it's the closest and most accessible place to meet for people that reside in the riverbed, and people from the riverbed, have attended these meetings, and they're community meetings. So it's for people that are a part of this nonprofit, and people that are not, and people that are just members of the community, to sort of communicate and share ideas. People that are affected by these issues, people that aren't. That's what these meetings are for.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks. Said that at one point Jose Moreno said perhaps this is a conversation that needs to be taking place with like community development, like Anaheim community development. It's a community development issue, and that's what Moreno said, and that's what Tim Houchin said was very important. And so maybe that's where the conversation goes next. Mm-hmm. I'll pull up the post. I think it was a really good point by Tim, who did, I guess, stay the entire time. What about just in general when you're talking about a safe zone? Where do you think that is?
They're not even looking at it.
They're not looking at it. Yeah. I think that you made an interesting point that we basically have one, a de facto safe zone by the Honda Center, right? What's the name of that park?
Oh, the park, it's called the Corral, yeah.
Or we call it Catella. Some call it Catella Park.
And
I mean,
so,
that's not the official name on the map.
is that something that like we can point to and say, look, this works, make this like an official thing? I think that's what you've been saying on Facebook,
Yeah,
right?
because actually the homeless community there are keeping it clean.
Right.
And that's what I guess social works had told them, that if they kept it clean and they put their trash in bags, they'll pick it up and they won't hassle them. Because they were going to throw them out a few months ago.
So they've been continue to pick it up.
Yeah, they post.
They're not picking up on the Honda side, you know why? They haven't picked up on the Honda side.
No, there's a church lady that goes in there and has been picking up some of the trash here.
Oh.
That doesn't need to be her job. That doesn't need to be her job, and it's not safe
Yeah.
for her to do that. It's not little ladies from churches. It's county public works can be
Right.
working. So who?
Especially because if there's needles there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
Wouldn't
really
that
sad.
be like
It's really sad.
health hazard that
Right.
that
Right.
county,
Yeah.
they need.
Who? Do you know who was doing the pickups before? So we can call them and tell them to start.
I'm not sure if it was OC works or.
Yeah, we weren't sure either.
Oh, it depends on where you're talking about. If it's on the West Bank is Orange County Parks contractor. On the East Bank is Parks has their own different contractor. So it depends on if it's Parks or Works. If it's Public Works or Parks, it makes a difference. There's two different groups there.
Huh?
Want me to bring your bike over?
Oh yeah.
You're waiting.
Bikes are commodity.
Oh yeah. Well, there's no
Amber.
bike rack.
It's still over there, but one of the tires is gone.
The nameplate disappeared. Yeah, but it is very distinctive, so that might be
why it's not getting taken.
It wouldn't get very far.
So I mean, I think that's a really interesting point. That if we can say, yeah, the corral is essentially operating as a safe zone, why not sort of institutionalize, this as a safe zone?
I can see them, like,
They have
precedence
issues
is a
with
big
that,
word.
too. Last month, there was some meeting that Lou and I went to, and he spoke out over there at the German restaurant, right? They had several people, the Anaheim Chief of Police, and I forget the lady's name, who she was, but she read this thing, and I'm not even sure if it was Washington State or what, where they had set up a safety zone, and then all the legal issues and how it didn't work for them. So she was basically saying, we're against this.
The page Orange County Poverty Alleviation Coalition, and so that's where all of our events and updates. I'll definitely upload. I haven't done this in the past, but I will upload minutes from this meeting since there was like a lot of great I think collaboration and ideas, and sort of create this to-do list and see who wants to take initiative and who can best contribute to what. So Kimberly handles all the politics, and I will.
Politics and media.
Politics and media, and yeah. So yeah, thank you very much.